Hey folks, just another driving debrief video. When we booked the next lesson on, Tony said we'll do it on Thursday, and I thought he meant next week Thursday, but he actually meant today, which is the day after my last lesson. So that's hot on the heels of my last video. We did another lesson today. It's been bright and overcast, quite good conditions. We did a lot more today, a lot more practice stuff, and it was quite a good lesson. I got a lot more comfortable with what I was doing. I'm not there yet, by any means, but we did a lot more junctions, we did a lot more housing estates, and I was getting more comfortable with the gears, and still don't know the exact position of the left hand side of the car from my perspective, but I'm getting better at it, I think. So today he let me drive straight out from the village, and we went south down a couple of towns down to the Hellmouth town again, over the national speed limit roads. I was a bit slow on those, I guess. I was trying to concentrate on my steering. It was a 60 zone, obviously. I probably might have touched 42 at most, so yeah, I was just lingering around below and above 40 miles an hour, just trying to work on my steering and keep it straight. And he pointed out some road signs to me, but because I've lived in my village all the time, I kind of ignore the road signs that are in my village. I kind of didn't know they were there until he pointed them out, so that's amusing. There was like a left turn sign. I'd never seen it before until he pointed at it. Once we got into the Hellmouth town, Tavistock, we went left up to where Mount House School used to be. They've now merged it with Kelly College, so now it's called something else, I think. Then right up into Greenland's estate, which is around about where I lived, right and the left up there. And then we did some circuits and things. There's like a tiny estate off the opening of Greenland's estate called like Coxtor Road or something. So we went in there first. And it's tight. It's these things he calls tunnels, with the meeting situations with like cars parked all one side or either side. So, and there was like a weird car parking bay there that's quite a tight turn, and you don't quite see it sneaking up on you until you're there. We pulled in there, and then he noticed there was like a private "don't park in front of this gate" sign where we parked, and so he went, "Oh, okay, let's go a bit further on." He took the wheel and like spun us around in this car parking bay. We had a conversation there. I think I asked him that I wanted to do more hill starts after what happened around Brentall village last time, so we did some hill starts later on. He was telling me about the auxiliary controls. He was teaching me what all the little buttons and stuff did for the air vents and things. So I don't know if I can memorise those, but now I have a basic idea of what they do. And like he was going over where the windscreen wipers are and the lights, and kind of going over those again. I don't think I'll memorise where the lights are until I need them, like on a dark day or a night trip. I hope we do get to do a night trip at some point. So yeah, we wheeled around that tiny estate, Coxtor Road, whatever it's called. Came out of there, went into Greenland's estate, near where I used to live, but stopped short of that area. Did a little circuit there, in a very tight road where I'm not sure what I would have done if a car was coming the other way, because it was like only narrow enough for one car only, the entire like L shape you had to do. I was coming out of the mouth of the junction. I thought I was doing it fine, and he said like stop, hold on. We paused at the line, then he reversed the car backwards and then pointed out that there's a silver car parked on the left of the junction, and he said you might I've only subconsciously picked that up, but it was throwing off your position. So even though this is a narrow car, it only fit for one road, once it gets to the mouth of the junction, it gets slightly wider, enough to fit the front of two cars in before it narrows to one car length. And I should have, when that mouth happened, because of the silver car parked on the left, I was apparently keeping too far right when I came out of the junction. So I should have turned slightly left as I came out of the junction to pause on the line, because it would just have enough space on the other side to get another car's nose in if one was to come the other direction into the one we were leaving. So I didn't notice that at first. So yeah, even if it's a tiny road, when you get to the mouth of a junction, you should kind of bear left because it'll squeeze 2 cars in just about. And we came out of that, we went up to a bit of the open moor, tiny bit of the open moor on the golf links near the Pimple at the top end of Down Road, which is a big long road that feeds into Tavistock. Loads of housing estates either side of it. So there's like a semi-invisible triangle junction there that you don't notice at first unless you're there. You see the dotted lines on the ground. So we went over that and then we went to the top of Down Road. Went into Down Road, it looks like a junction, it's actually a slow turn to the right. So I kept thinking, this is a junction, I've got to indicate. It's like, nope. A couple of cars like went wide there and nearly came onto our side. But we're going quite a slow speed. I wasn't used to the going up to like gear 3 and gear 4, but he got me doing that a couple of times. Going down road after the cattle grid. Went down there, there's some odd estate there. I don't know what it's called. It's like a very hidden entry just after a bend in Down Road. There's like an estate on the right as you're coming down. And we went into there and there was like temporary traffic lights set up and roadworks blocking off like a T-junction, the first T-junction you get to. So we did some pausing at traffic lights. We did some more clutch control thing. He's got this phrase for clutch control. He says like there's 4 little gradients of the clutch when you're lifting it up. There's snail, see if I get this right. Oh yeah, snail, rabbit, fox, cheetah. And cheetah is not fast at all because it's just like top raised of the clutch. Snail is you are imperceptibly moving, like if you pay attention, it's like watching the stars in the night sky, basically. You're moving forward, but you're almost at a standstill, so you only know you're moving forward if you just look, pay attention very carefully. Then there's rabbit, which is moving slightly faster than that, but hardly noticeably faster at all. Then there's fox, in which you know you're moving forward and you can see things opening out to either side of you. And then there's cheetah, which is just the top of the clutch, where you're just going at the top clutch speed. So slug or snail, rabbit, fox, cheetah, I think. So that's another one of the Tonyisms, along with like tunnels and things like that. He's got little words for things. So we did some hill starts there. We did some clutch control, messing around with the different heights of the clutch and how much it drags you. And hammering into my brain the knowledge that the clutch is also like a second brake. And when you approach junctions, you don't need accelerator. The clutch will drag you. But also if you press down on the clutch will brake you to a certain extent, even though it's kind of coasting. And that's why you also need the other brake. So yeah, different heights of the clutch will speed you or slow you down to an extent. So we did some of that. And we did some hill starts on Down Road where the hill gets steeper before the cattle grid at the top. And we did like 3 or 4 of those, pulling in the side, hill start, pulling out, pulling in the side by a tree, hill start, pulling out, pulling in the side by a tree, hill start. Did a lot of that because I was getting used to hill starts. And I think you need the revs up to just under 2. Yeah, if you're going up the hill and changing gear, you need like from 2 to 3, like driving normally. You need to get the revs to 3 before you make the gear change. But for these hill starts, we're getting the revs just under the 2. You get used to holding the accelerator flat just under the 2, so it's humming. And then you do all your checks and stuff. And then you bring the clutch up to the biting point. So you hold that under the 2, clutch up to the biting point until it meets the same level as the accelerator, and then you just hold it a while and then you slowly exchange until the clutch is higher than the accelerator, and then it starts to pick up. And you just kind of do that very slowly because you can't just go whoop. You just kind of got to go get that under 2, hold it there, and then bring this up to there, and then hold them together and then bring it past. That's what I was struggling with in Brentor, which I think I'm not going to say mastered. I've got better at this time because all of those hill starts I did were pretty successful. At one point I pulled in to the side of the road because he asked me to, and I didn't realise that I'd gone onto the curb and onto the grass beyond the curb. And he said, I let you go on the grass, so I'll let you off this time, but you're on the grass. I'm like, what? I'm on the grass? He said, yeah, but it's a really low curb and a really gentle sloping of grass attached to that curb. So I just let you fly onto it just so I could show you. I was like, oh god. So I crossed the curb essentially, but because it wasn't a hard curb, he didn't grab control away. But it's nice to be able to be in some kind of position where you can make a mistake and see for yourself, be told, hey, you've made a mistake, and then look at it and go, oh, rather than what Sean was doing when I drove with him, which was just not letting me make the mistake, just like being really anxious to take the wheel from me at all times and stuff. Like at one point today, we slipped into a different gear, and I didn't realise, like the wrong gear. It might have been trying to get to second, but we're in fourth or something like that, and the gearbox was growling, and I noticed it, and I went, huh! Went to neutral, and then went to the gear I wanted. So he let me make that mistake, and notice something was going on, and then let me kind of figure out how to fix it. Lots of other stuff happened I'm not currently remembering at the moment. I'll probably bring it up in a sec if I think of it. But yeah, it was a much better lesson today. I felt way more comfortable with everything I was doing. There was one point where we were turning into a junction, and there was a man with a van, this grey van, big like painter, decorator guy or whatever. He was standing outside his van as we approached the junction. I was about to turn in. It was just a little bit tight. We would have got through, but we wouldn't be able to get through with him standing there. And he'd just come around his van like he was going to walk around his van and go around the back of it. But he just saw us and stopped there on the spot, which threw me off, and I was like, oh god, what do I do? And like at that point Tony braked and clutched and all that for me, and the guy just stood there for a moment looking a bit confused at us, and then he went round the van to the back out of the way, which is what I thought he was originally going to do for me, but he didn't. So pedestrians are fucking unpredictable. You don't know what the hell they're thinking. I don't know if he was acting that way just because he saw a learner car approaching, and if it didn't have L plates on, if he would have just gone around. It was bizarre. There was a cat somewhere. There was a cat as we were coming home, but it was in the bushes, so I mean I was watching out for the unpredictability. Actually, he showed me a video on his little iPad, video recordings of his students. He showed me a video of one of his students driving in Launceston, who was driving across a road, saw a cat just standing on the curb, and the student very nicely kind of stopped to a standstill for the cat, and the cat just like looked at him, crossed the road as soon as he stopped, paused in the road for a moment and went a bit slow, but then kept going, crossed to the other side, and then the student continued. So it's good that people are actually stopping for cats. There's a lot of like people on driving videos I've been watching who've been saying don't stop for animals, and I'm like, no dude, one of our cats got killed this year in a road accident. I'm gonna stop for animals if I see them, as best as I can do. I've done a lot more looking at mirrors today before making a manoeuvre. There's one thing that I can't do properly yet, which is look at your mirrors before you change speed. I don't think I'm doing that, but I'm looking at my mirrors a lot more regularly. I'm looking more at my right hand mirrors when I'm going to drift into a right lane or drift right on purpose, and looking at my left hand mirrors when I drift left. I'm trying to get into the habit of looking at the left blind spot when I'm parking. I've been doing that a few times, but a few other times I've been missing it. So that's good. Trying to think of anything else that might have happened. That's mostly it. So even though it was like when he said Thursday, he meant today, he also meant Thursday next week. So I've got one same time as this week, next week, basically. But he also said if there's a chance I might squeeze in another lesson, maybe before that, or maybe after it, but he'll see about squeezing me a second lesson in the week. And then I think after that I've got one more lesson before I have to book another block of 10. Gets expensive, so I hope we're progressing, basically. Hope we're advancing, shall I say, because I hate the word progressives, and you know why. Anyway, that was a good day. Yeah, I felt quite comfortable. I didn't at any point during today, I didn't feel like stressed out or worried that I was going to hit something, or I didn't happen upon a ridiculously tricky situation where I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, it wasn't that kind of, it wasn't a stressful driving day, basically. It was all like, I kind of knew what was going on when I messed up, and most of the time I knew what was going on and I wasn't messing up, which was pretty good. Yeah. Also, I think looking in the left-hand mirror and the little kind of spherical blind spot mirrors I told you about when I'm drifting in left to park, I think that improves my getting close to the curb for parking. I've got to do that. I've got to look in the blind spot and do that and look ahead of the road at the same time. It's tricky, but I think it gets easier the more you practice, and we've had a lot of practice today. Anyway, catch you later, folks. I'll debrief you maybe next Thursday. Bye.
You take care of this car?
Pulls a little to the right.
So...
What?
we got a bump coming up.